Hey everybody, hope you all having a great week. Here we are, the second week of school, and for those of y'all that were at the Wesley this past week at Underground, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about in the first chapter of Mark, we talked about how Jesus, after doing a lot of work and healing a lot of people, Jesus got up early one morning and he went out to a quiet place, or he went out into the wilderness. We talked a lot about that word wilderness Thursday night. And he went out and he prayed. And as he did that, God changed his view of what he was doing and changed his direction. His disciples and a bunch of the people that he were interacting with, they wanted him to come back and do a bunch of things that he was already doing. But when he went to this place of wilderness or quiet or solitude, and he spoke with God, God redirected and reminded him of his very purpose. So what we want to talk about this week in our Bathos small groups is what do you think about those times when you go out and you set a time to where you're alone with God, where your intention is to go and to pray to God the Father. You go and you hear from God, and you do it with the attitude of God changing your direction, changing the direction of how you're living your life or who you are, or just to speak to you. But you go to it with the attitude of God, examine me, look at me, look at how I've been living my life. What do you have for me? Sometimes I feel that God tells us when we do that we are just loved, and that he loves us and he's well pleased. Other times I think God just reminds us of things that he wants us to do, places that he would have us go, conversations that we'd have, things that he'd have us quit doing. We talked a lot this past Thursday about that solitude and that wilderness, and there's a great book called The Celebration of Disciplines by Richard Foster, and he has a chapter in here about solitude, and I want to read a couple of things from this and just to share with you. This is what Foster says. He says, solitude is more a state of mind and heart than it is a place. There is a solitude of the heart that can be maintained at all times. Crowds or the lack of them have little to do with his inward attentiveness. It is quite possible to be a desert hermit and never experience solitude. But if we possess inward solitude, we do not fear being alone, for we know that we are not alone. Neither do we fear being with others, for they do not control us. In the midst of the noise and confusion, we are settled into a deep inner silence. Whether alone or among people, we always carry with us a portable sanctuary of the heart. Sometimes when we talk about solitude, we feel like we have to go to a place where no other people are. I think that's a very helpful thing. I think we all have places where we can go, whether it be a prayer room or our car or the shower or a part of our bedroom or a specific couch in our house, to where we can be alone and we don't hear the noises that are out there. And when we are alone and we are paying attention to God's voice and what he has for us, it's much easier for us to hear him. But I like what Foster says here, that we can experience that solitude, that oneness with God, even in the midst of a crowd, even in the midst of a lot of people. And I like that he says that it's a state of mind more than it is a place. It's a place where we say, God, I'm coming to be with you. Lord, I want to hear from you. Lord, I want to try to close out all of these other voices and things that are competing with what you have for me. And Lord, I want to hear from you. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, in his book Life Together, he talks about there being two dangerous places. The person that always wants to be around people and never wants to be alone, or the person that always wants to be around and never be with people. He says those are equally damaging and equally scary, because we need to be alone and hearing from God, as well as being around others and living in community so God can use those people to speak in and to and through us. I know some people say, oh, I'm an extrovert. I don't ever want to be alone. And some people say, oh, I'm an introvert. I never want to be with other people. But there's a both and here. We need to spend time when it's just us in that sacred place, in that solitude, in that wilderness. And we also need to be in a place where we're in community and we hear what God is doing and saying in and through others, and how does that impact us. So some of the questions that I want y'all to talk about today is, how does your life look when we talk about solitude and spending time where you're just focusing on God and what He has and the direction and the purpose He has? What does that look like? Do you do it at all? Is it a time that you set apart, or is it a time that it's just a state of mind that, as Foster says, that you can just do whenever? And then after you discuss that, I'd ask you, what can you do? What are some steps that you can do to foster this? To come up with some ideas to foster this idea of solitude, of being alone, hearing from God, allowing Him to direct you and to speak into your life. Is this something that you want to do? Is this something that you feel that God is directing you and pushing you and nudging you to do? I believe that it's very, very important. I think it's something that Christ modeled for us, and I believe that it's something that we should do and that we should learn how to do it well. There was a lot of stuff that we talked about this week at Underground, and y'all are more than welcome to discuss any of that stuff in your small group, from how the book of Mark was penned, and why and the purposes behind that, and what the gospel is, and repentance, and all of those things. There's a lot of stuff that we touched on, and you're more than welcome to bring up any of those questions and discuss those and to go deeper into those. But man, I just really appreciate y'all. Hope y'all have a great week, and we'll see you again next Thursday. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.